After 7 o'clock, so let's get going. Good evening, everyone. This is the Air Conservation Commission meeting. It is Thursday, June 9th, 2022.
You can give 30 minutes.
I'm sorry?
Sorry, my son was asking me a question.
Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, in accordance with Chapter 22 of the Act of 2022, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, the OML, public bodies otherwise governed by the OML are temporarily relieved from the requirement that meetings be held in public places, open and physically accessible to the public, so long as measures are taken to ensure public access to the body's deliberations through adequate alternative means. This meeting will be live on Zoom. The public may participate remotely by joining Zoom. The ID number is 840-4058. 0886 or by calling 929-205-6099. For additional information about remote participation, please contact the Conservation Commission at concom@ayer.ma.us or by calling 978-772-8220, extension 143 prior to the meeting. This evening, we have in attendance, we have Jenna as member, and we have George Bacon as member. We have Jessica Gino as clerk. We have Mark Phillips as vice chair, myself, John Schmellenberger as chair, and we also have Heather Hampson as our new conservation agent. So welcome to all of you. Do we have confirmation of agenda?
I have one change.
Oh, there is one change. Okay, what is that?
It is that I could blame this on Heather, except it wasn't Heather. On the approval of meeting minutes, we have one more set of minutes because of the special meeting with the planning board. So the minutes for May 24th as well as May 28th.
Okay. All right. Then do we have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
All right, it was moved by George Bacon, seconded by Mark Phillips. We'll do a roll call vote. Jen, how do you vote?
Aye.
George, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jess, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, passes unanimously. All right. Anyone or everyone has had an opportunity to read the minutes and any comments or changes? All right, is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes from May 24th with the planning board as written?
So moved.
Second.
All right, moved by George Bacon, seconded by Mark Phillips. Do a roll call again. Jen, how do you vote?
Aye.
George, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jess, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, passes unanimously. Approval for meeting minutes for May 26th, 2022. Any comments? Corrections? All righty, hearing none, then is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes for May 26th, 2022 as written?
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's moved by George Bacon, seconded by Mark Phillips. Do a roll call vote. Jen, how do you vote?
Aye.
George, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jess, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye and passes unanimously. This is the time right now for public input. If there is anyone out there viewing or listening that would like to make a comment or ask a question, now's the time.
This is Lori Nearing. I just want to make sure that I'm on the agenda.
You certainly are.
Okay. I didn't
Absolutely.
put on there. Thank you.
I believe you're first. All right, then hearing no public input, we will move on. And our first item this evening is a public meeting that we will open underneath the Wetland Protection Act and also under the Air Wetlands Bylaw. This is a request for determination of applicability, Grove Pond Invasive Water Chestnut Pool by PACE, People of Air Concerned About the Environment. And joining us this evening to discuss this is Lori Nearing. How are you this evening, Lori?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. It's good. It's nice to see you.
Thank you. You too. Um, do you want me to explain the big picture of the water chestnut pole, or what would be the best use of your time?
If you could do that, just, sort of briefly an overview, that would be great.
Absolutely, absolutely, yes. Um, Grove Pond has a fair amount of water chestnut plants growing on it. Somebody from your board, I think Jess included, had noticed these plants in, I believe it was 2016, and there was concern about possible contamination in the plants or in the water, so that if somebody hand pulled those plants, they might have possibly harmed themselves from exposure to, the main concern was arsenic at the time. I happened to notice those plants and the growth. One individual plant can reproduce up to 10 new plants, sometimes 14 new plants from year to year. So it's an annual plant. They drop their nuts. Each plant can produce a number of those pretty horrible nuts with the sharp spikes on it. So I was pretty horrified and determined to try to do something about that when I saw them last fall. I was able to get a grant to test the water and the plants and the sediments for around $5,000. Was awarded that grant through the Wild and Scenic Nashua River Wild and Scenic program, and that grant covered most of it's being used to cover the cost of the testing. So we have done half of the testing so far. We have sort of a timeline and protocol. Phase 1, we already have the results. The first phase, we were able to test the surface water and the sediments. We found low levels of PFAS, 7 different PFAS chemicals, all of them under the Safe Drinking Water program that Massachusetts DEP utilizes. No PFAS in the sediments at all. We have also measured arsenic, chromium, and lead. No chromium was found low levels of lead and low levels of arsenic. And I can give you those levels if you'd like to hear that. And that was found in the surface water. We do not yet have the results for the sediments. We're waiting for those results. On Monday of this week, we started phase 2, which meant that we now have plants that are big enough. Actually, they're quite big, unfortunately. But they're big enough and have been growing long enough to have possibly absorbed some of the chemicals we've been concerned about. And so on Monday, I sent those off to be tested. We have to wait about 3 weeks for the results to come back. And so we're hopeful that if the levels were low in the water, in the surface water, that they will also be low in the plants. Either way, I've been told by toxicologists that these chemicals are large and that dermal absorption, in other words, people handling the plants, would not get chemicals in their body unless they were to eat the plants or drink a lot of the water. So we're relatively confident that the campaign to pull the plants can go forward, but we are waiting for the results. We are at this point setting up Google, all kinds of outreach efforts just to get people signed up for doing the pull, and we're right in the middle of launching all of that and starting to hear back and getting people to sign up. So we have a number of dates, have a lot of support and cooperation from DPW, from the Parks Department, from Nashua River Watershed, from Neshoba Paddler, and from your board in moving forward on this. So it looks like it's going to work, assuming that your board is happy with the process.
So Lori, are you looking to get this RDA sort of contingent on your findings?
If you feel it's necessary, I think that's maybe your decision. I can try to elaborate a little bit more, but as I said, we do not have the final the final numbers, and we don't expect to for another 3-ish weeks.
Right, but do you, my question is, we don't know if this will go ahead or not? Or are you pretty confident that it will?
I'm pretty confident that it will.
Okay,
I honestly think a more important decision for your board might be when we pull the plants, should we make arrangements with DPW to have them hauled away? And so part of the study, as you may recall, part of this important need for doing the study was not only human exposures, but also will the plants pose a problem because they themselves contain PFAS or arsenic or lead. And if we stack them on the shoreline, which is what is typically done for water chestnut pull, and let them just sort of decompose, they kind of melt down to almost nothing, is what I'm told. Would your board prefer that we make the arrangements to have them hauled away to the rubbish? I mean the leaf dump that DPW manages.
well, that's a good question, because I'm not quite sure where it should go. But my own personal feeling is that I don't think we should leave them on the shore, because it's just seems like it's just gonna find its way back in the water again. I don't know that for a fact, but how do other commissioners feel about this?
Jess and I did do a site walk along with Neil Angus.
And John was there too.
Yeah, I was there as well. Yep.
Oh, that's right. That's right. And we looked for places where we thought they could go. It's just so hard to know right now what it's going to look like as we pull this stuff out, and how much bigger,
How much there'll be.
yeah.
Is that something to discuss with DPW to see if it could be a coordinated effort to, once they're pulled, that
Yes.
don't just dump them, but have it hauled?
Yeah, actually, I have had that preliminary discussion with Dan, and he offered it quite some time ago, way back when I was writing the grant, but I need to follow up and see if he can still do that. I think we would find a place where it would not end up back in the pond, but my other concern is that the nuts are those sharp, prongy things that I would personally would not want a whole pile of those, piling up somewhere in the woods where they could roll down, or people would step on them, or animals could get them, or
Right.
I would feel better if they could be hauled away.
Yep.
At least the bulk of it, maybe not every last piece, but
Yep. Jen, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think they should be sitting there, especially that close to the pond. Lori, I am curious what type of response you've gotten for signups to help with this, if you've had any at all.
we are in need of signups, but we just launched this a couple of days ago. So Lori Sable has been helping me with it. She has the technology savviness, and it's outreach through Facebook and email, mainly through colleagues and friends, and also trying to get suggestions of new Facebook groups. I also had having an email exchange with the scouts in the area. So we could use support and help with doing the outreach.
Yeah. How about you, George? What are your thoughts?
Hauling it away would be preferable, I think. But isn't the stuff that DPW collects eventually composted and then distributed? Are people going to find the nuts in their compost?
Does DPW distribute compost?
I think they make it available.
I can find that out.
But if they're willing to take it, I'm fine with it.
It's going to depend on what levels are of the PFAS, because we don't want to cross-contaminate a new area that hasn't got the problem yet. So our understanding right now, just to kind of lay out all of the things we've considered, it is possible that these plants bioconcentrate chemicals. That's what we need to look at. We're looking at the roots separate from the stems, separate from the rosettes, or where the flowers grow from. We're having very detailed studies. I did obtain extra money to look at this more carefully. So each of these tests costs $350. and we're doing 9 of them. So we're studying 3 different areas, and we're looking at those 3 things at each area. So I sent 9 different Ziploc bags in to be tested. And they're going to test for lead and arsenic also. So if there's a chance that, for example, the highest level of PFAS that we found in one place was 14.7. Now the drinking water limit is 20 in comparison. That's parts per trillion or nanograms per liter. So and that's for PFOA, which is one of the more common compounds. And all of these, by the way, have been found around on the ground, in the groundwater around our drinking water supply. I verified, I did some cross-checking. They're all from the Army's operations. And they're much higher on the shoreline, much, much higher.
What do you think, Mark?
So
So yes, I definitely would prefer to have them all the way. In fact, I almost say that that's the only way I'd allow this. Lori, I guess the one thing I wanted to ask though, how much on the grant did you actually receive? Like, what was your full amount? Because assuming you said you're doing 9 tests at $350 a piece, was that about 35, a little over $3,000 you're using there? If these are found to be hazardous waste and we need to truly get rid of them, are we now stuck with them because we might be out of grant money? I'm just curious.
if it's determined as hazardous waste, the whole program is canceled. We won't be able to pull it. We have to leave it where it is. That's very unlikely, but it's possible. So all the whole, yeah, we would not be able to go forward. I think other people would be very interested in these results because people are pulling water chestnuts all over the place, all over New England, probably all over America. National River Watershed does it all the time, and all the water associations around us do this. So everybody's going to be interested. PFAS is everywhere too. If you're following that, it's a huge problem everywhere, and the levels that are in the soil are like 1,580.
Okay. And Lori, I totally agree. I guess the one thing is where they are pulling them, for whatever reason, maybe they never tested it, but I, based on what I remember, and maybe things have changed, but I assumed our air town PFAS contamination was much higher than others, and maybe I'm wrong, but if it's not, then others probably have a worse problem than we do. And like you said, maybe it's not going to be hazardous. From a volume perspective, when it gets pulled, I've never actually looked at how much is literally in the pond, but what are you expecting, like volume wise? Are we talking like 350?
You're cutting out.
I'm sorry, Mark, you're cutting out.
5-gallon drums kind of full? Or, okay, I'm just wondering how much stuff we're going to have that DPW has to haul.
Mark, this is such a good and important question, and I wish I could give you a scientific response, but here's what's happening in reality. I went out in early May and the plants were just starting to sprout. It was like a single stem coming up. I went out 3 weeks later and the plants are quite large. I went out on Monday and I don't know if you saw the pictures on our website, but I could pull up a handful of this stuff and it was massive. It would fill my whole bucket in one handful and it was everywhere all around me. I brought that bucket home and I threw it in my garden to see what would happen to it. And it's almost invisible now. It's been, 4 days in the sun, except for the nuts. And there were probably, I don't know, 10 or 12 nuts just in that one mass that I pulled up. So it's so hard to know. I do think we can bring them up off the ground far enough that they're not going to come back into the pond. I think we can strategize where to put them so the nuts don't become something people will, accidentally step on. But like you, I would, assuming that the plants are not like taking PFAS and spreading it to a new place, which is what I do not want to support. I don't want to do that. I think it would be better to pull them out of there at least this year when we're going to have a large quantity because it's our first year doing it. And then after this, hopefully it's just going to be maintenance and it's not going to be this big push. So I would like to ask Dan if he can haul them away, assuming the PFAS levels are low.
Jess, you have any comments?
Yep, just, yeah, I mean, I would think that if, having the DPW haul them away, and if they're, depending on the levels of contamination, maybe they, instead of putting them in where they compost everything else, you said they decompose pretty rapidly, just isolate the area and then we have a much smaller
Yeah,
thing down the road.
right, right. I think that's a good idea, even if they, because of the nuts, people aren't going to want that in their gardens or anywhere. It would really, it hurts to pick them up. They can easily puncture your skin.
Yeah.
Any other questions from commissioners?
So Lori, with regards to the nuts, can they be pulverized, turned into like whatever? I mean, just made less harmful?
Well, there probably is a way of doing that with mallets or something. Not in your hand,
Adding.
not with a hammer.
Chipper?
A chipper, maybe. Interesting question. I can ask Dan what he thinks. I've got a tray of them now. I can show you what they look like. They're pretty awful.
And John, in answer to your earlier question, I think the point of having the RDA hearing now is that once the results come back, if they show it's okay to go ahead with the pull, that there's no paperwork.
Delay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because if we issue, a permit through the RDA and then the project gets canceled, no harm, no foul.
Yep. Well, you don't have to wait the 10 days later on.
Right.
Yeah. Every day we wait, the plants just get bigger. And I also have a limited window of time where I
Sure.
can do this, and I need to plan it now.
Are there any questions or comments from anyone that's viewing or listening? Any other comments from commissioners before we move ahead? Don or Heather, do you have any comments on this?
The only thing I was gonna ask, I know Lori's looking for volunteers if the commission decides to go forward with this. I know the date she's doing it, one of them is on a Thursday in July. I have no problem helping do that. I think it'd be good to see a member from the Conservation Commission, a member from the town hall out there working. If the commission would be so kind as to allow me to do that for a couple hours on a Thursday, that Thursday after morning, I think it is, on the 7th of July to help Lori with this project. They should be hauled away. I don't know if it's something these could just go to the stump dump there and hold on a tarp until we figure out where they can, if they're contaminated or not, what we need to do with them there. But I feel like that's the best place to put all these things is there. And if it isn't being hazardous, if it's something that Devon's could take as part of their hazardous waste recycling that they do, I don't know if they ever have any experience with that, but they might look into that one too.
Yeah. I think we could arrange to have you out of the office for Thursday morning.
Thanks, Heather.
That'd
That's
be great.
Mhm.
Yep, I'm going to try to do that as well. Anything else? Okay, is there a motion to issue a negative determination on the RDA, Grow Pond Invasive Water Chestnut Pull? With the conditions that I believe we want the materials hauled away and not stockpiled along the bank and disposed of properly.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we'll do a roll call vote. It was moved by George Bacon, seconded by Mark Phillips. Jen, how do you vote?
Aye.
George, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jess, how do you vote?
I
Mark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, passes unanimously. And Heather, when do you see this going out to the state?
I had it started drafting this. It's not 100% done. I can have it done probably, I'd say tomorrow, but I always like giving myself an extra day just to be safe. So I can have it all ready to go on Monday.
Monday.
Yeah.
Okay, so 10-day, Lori, it's a 10-day waiting period for the state to, if they want to appeal this. So if you don't hear in 10 days after Monday, you're good to go.
I do have one question for your board. If there's a reason why Dan can no longer offer to haul this stuff away, would that mean I can't do the project, or could I come back to you and discuss it again, or what should we do?
Can you say that one more time, please?
Yes, if Dan says he cannot haul
Oh,
the water chestnuts away, or the logistics can't come together for some reason,
mhm.
what would I do?
That's a good question. I don't think anybody else has the capabilities to haul this stuff anywhere. So
You
I
could put
believe
them in John's driveway.
Ah,
I got a big drive loaded up.
what some people suggest is let it sort of decompose and become less
Less.
bulk on the shoreline and then haul it away. But I see pros and cons of that too, because it's going to kind of fall apart when you try to pick it up.
Well, so what about putting tarps then
Tarps, good idea.
along on the bottom, and then and maybe even just some netting over the top of the piles to keep dogs or kids away?
So Lori, can you reach out again, please, to
I will.
Dan and just ask him if it's something that DPW is willing to do?
Yes, I'll get back to you about it either way.
Okay, that'd
Yeah,
be great.
I guess my suggestion would be, can we have a small dump truck or pickup truck be made available to put everything there and immediately haul it away, not temporarily store it along the bank? That it sounds like it decomposes way too fast, and
Yeah,
I'd rather we don't do that. Once it's pulled, it should be taken right away,
yeah.
put somewhere else, and then figure out what we're doing with it.
It's up to you.
Okay.
I mean, is it possible to burn it? Do a fire pit or something with it?
Not when it's wet, but
I guess after it dries, like if you put on a tarp or something and expose it and then, somehow dig a pit and just burn it. That's just a recommendation, a suggestion.
okay.
Don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, the best of all possible worlds would be to have DPW haul it away right away.
I agree.
I think that's what I would ask him if he could do it.
Okay.
If not that day, then very shortly after that.
Okay, that sounds good. And Jess, you had recommended putting up a sign, and I forgot what you suggested, but it was a good suggestion. Do you remember what you had said? An informational sign of some kind?
I think that was, I don't remember what I said, but we could put up an informational sign that said water chestnuts are invasive, being pulled carefully. I think it was more in line of stay away from the pile if the pile was nearby.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you so much for your support, everybody. I really.
One other question is, how do you want to get the RDA, the permit? Do you want to pick it up or have it mailed to you?
If it can be mailed to me, unless the time is tight, I'll pick it up if I need to.
I can mail it. It's gonna go certified. So I said, I'll try to get it done and I'll try to get it all set tomorrow. If not, it'll be on Monday. And then it's the Highland Ave address, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Like, I actually even know where it is. I go for a walk every day.
Oh,
I can drop it off if you'd like
that would be interesting.
on my walk around the neighborhood.
Well, I'm going to be gone for the 2 weeks right before the first poll, so I wouldn't want it to be sitting in my mailbox.
Okay.
But we'll work it out.
All right.
If need be.
Lori, thank you so much for doing this. This is very important. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. I really wanted to be addressed.
Sure.
Become a part.
All right. Well, you have a good evening. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Okay, good night. Our next item this evening is a public meeting that we will open under the Wetlands Protection Act and under the Ayer Wetlands Bylaw. It's an RDA at 3 Trevor Trail. Rob Steedman, if I'm saying that correctly. Mr. Steedman, you are with us this evening?
Yes, I am.
Hi, good evening, sir. How are you?
Good evening. I'm good. Good to see you all back.
What do you have for us this evening? You have some some trees to remove?
Yeah, there are 2 dead trees that are close enough to my house and driveway that if they would fall, they would damage the house and the driveway and also make it impossible to leave the house. We have had issues with falling trees before. About a year ago, I think, I also asked for a permit because one tree just missed our house. We had, if you would be here in the forest area in winter, you see that there are quite a lot of fallen dead trees, and we had a birch fall maybe 6 weeks ago. So we are really scared of dead trees, and we would like to get approval to remove these 2, and we would use the same company that we used before, Flag.
They pine trees, spruce trees, do you know?
That is a good question. I'm not an arborist, and also there's no leaves on it anymore to check. Yeah.
But they're dead.
They are dead. Yeah, they're really dead.
Are they, I don't have like a map or a drawing or anything of where they are. Are they outside of your lawn?
Yeah, they're outside of our lawn. They're at the edge of where the wetland starts.
Yep.
I'm not 100% sure if that part is still really not wetland, but yeah, that's where they are, on the edge.
Yep. And you'd like to take them down, leave the stump.
Yeah, we would like to leave the stump. You know, there's a lot of dead trees in that area already.
Anyone on the commission feel it's necessary to do a site walk to look at this? I mean, if they're dead trees and they're a hazard.
Heather was here 2 days ago, right?
Yeah, I went and looked at them on Tuesday. They are directly, if you go up the driveway to your right. One tree, I noticed the whole bottom half is just riddled with woodpecker holes. So I would imagine, you know, some of the windy storms we had, especially last summer, took down a lot of trees. They're definitely, that one is definitely a dead tree, and it would fall, go right across the driveway. The other one, depending on which way it fell, it'd either go towards the house again or across the driveway, and they're right there. As you're going up the driveway, and I mean, he submitted a picture with his application, which I could pull up if I could find a screen share, I could show you, but they're definitely dead. And I said the one single tree from, about halfway up down, all the way down, is just, it's just full of holes from woodpeckers pecking at it. So the bugs have definitely eaten a good portion of that tree, and then the woodpeckers have taken care of the rest.
You have comments, Jess?
It sounds good. I mean, I think this is exactly the sort of RDA where if Heather does a site walk in advance, it's straightforward. I
Yep.
don't think we need to do one.
All right. How do you feel, Jen?
Just curious, Rob, how far down you were going to take the trees, how large of a stump you wanted to leave?
At least so far that they don't reach the driveway anymore. You know, if you would prefer to take them higher or lower, if you have a preference, just tell me. But I would like to make sure that they don't hit any of the road or the parking space that is next to it. Do you have a preference?
I was just thinking in terms of habitat when they do fall and all of that, but if there's already a lot of dead trees, it probably doesn't matter. But
No, you're just a little bit behind it is a dead tree that hangs like under an angle of 30 degrees in other trees. It's unfortunate, but true.
thank you.
How about you, George?
Yeah, I have no problem with this. Seems pretty straightforward.
Yep. Mark?
Yeah, same comments as Jen. If we can leave 5-10 feet, whatever, just some bug habitat, things
That's
like
fine. That's absolutely fine for me. I will discuss that with the Flag.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks.
Yeah.
Any other comments from commissioners or anyone who's viewing or listening? All right, well then, hearing none, is there a motion to issue a negative determination on the RDA or at 3 Trevor Trail, Rob Steedman?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by George Bacon, seconded by Mark Phillips. Do a roll call, roll call vote. Jen, how do you vote?
Aye.
George, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jess, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, passes unanimously. So
Thank you.
Rob, I'm assuming Heather, this will go out probably Monday at the latest.
Yeah, that would be true. My one question is, did you want to put that condition on to leave, you know, a substantial, I would say a substantial stump. I don't know how we want to phrase that, but do we want to condition it that way? Do we want to just leave it as there's no conditions on it and he'll just do as he sees fit?
Well, will a 10-foot stump hit your driveway?
For one, for sure, for not, the other I will check, but you know, I have no objections to that. I think the other one,
Well-
I can look out the window and check for
No,
you.
that's okay. I would just say that if, cut them down so they're not gonna hit your driveway.
Yeah, I think one, I think we can definitely 10, the other one might be a little bit shorter.
That's fine. Does that satisfy everybody?
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Very good.
And then,
There'll be a 10-day waiting period after Monday for the state to appeal if they wish. If you don't hear anything after 10 days from this coming Monday, you can proceed with your project.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
and how do you want it delivered?
Oh, since I have to wait 10 days anyway, it can just go by mail. You should arrive here within 10 days, I think.
All right, very good. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you very much for taking care of this. Thank you.
You bet.
Good
Have a
night.
Good evening. Good night. Our next item this evening is the emergency certification of the Ayer Fire Station hazard tree removal. Who is joining us from the Ayer Fire Station?
Nobody.
Nobody. Alrighty. So we can just go ahead and, is it done?
Don't know if it's done, but Heather contacted me on Friday before she was officially agent. The fire chief had they had to have a tree that beaver activity has been quite significant on, and it's leaning it's close to the wetlands. They just want to get it down before it does any damage. They're leaving the stump intact. They don't want to, you know, disrupt the bank. So, but it's clearly, you know, the beavers have been at it. So I said, okay, go ahead and, you know, as soon as they can. And that Heather would then issue the emergency certification on Monday when she's our agent. So here we are.
And here we are. Anyone have any comments or questions concerning the tree removal? Sounds pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah.
Does this need to be, have a motion, I guess, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, is there a
Motion
motion to issue an emergency certification for hazard tree removal at the Ayer Fire Station?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by George Bacon, seconded by Mark Phillips. Jen, how do you vote?
Aye.
George, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jess, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, passes unanimously. Is this a phone call or is this? How are they notified?
I'll email the Chief Johnston to let him know that it's all set. He was gonna let me know when they were gonna go do the work so I could put that date on the emergency cert. But I know he had to wait for when he could get an appointment to go out there and hear back from the tree warden on that as well. So he didn't have an exact date yet.
Yep.
But I'll probably just date it tomorrow. I'll ask. I'll try to get a hold of him tomorrow and see if he has a date so I can. I'm sure if I put the 30 days, it'll get done before then. But just try to get in the shorter range on him on that. But I'll contact him tomorrow and find that out.
Okay, thank you, Heather.
Mhm.
All right. The next item this evening is a field change at 22 Hibiscus Lane. David Badger, DEP file number 100-0439. Mr. Badger, you with us this evening?
I don't believe he's here. I'm
Okay.
just gonna give you background. So I started.
Right here. Hey, Heather.
Oh, you
we're
are here. Okay, good.
We had to switch computers. Mine wasn't
Oh,
working.
okay. I was like, where did he go? I thought he was there.
So can you tell us a little bit about the change, the field?
The change is that when I started this project, it was back around 2018, 19. And the engineer just asked me, he says, what do you want? What are you trying to put in there? And I said, a three-bedroom ranch. And so the initial plan went through and everything is done, completed on the plans. But we changed what we were doing to a smaller footprint. And I think Heather probably handed everything out.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is just get your blessing for the change of this. We didn't want to get into just plowing through it without your blessing on it. There is the top of the foundation is exactly the same. The back of it's going to be a slight walkout, so it's not going to make a big difference of backfill or anything to the back at all. It's going to be right down to where it is. And let's see, what else can I tell you? My issue all of a sudden came up. It's a modular house, and they inform me that it's built. They want to know when to ship it, and I haven't got a foundation. So
So
Go ahead.
I'm assuming that there's less square footage in the
Yes,
buffer than there was before.
yes.
I
And
think it's about 200 square feet less,
yeah,
almost. Yeah.
yeah. It should be a secondary form with couple of lines on there. The original house is 1,800 inside the 100-foot buffer approximately. The proposed house is 1,665 square feet inside the 100-foot buffer. So it's gone down almost 200.
Yeah. Well, usually if it's less impact, a field change is appropriate unless other commissioners have any issue with that.
So on the drawing that was in the packet, we're going from the pink long rectangle house to the green. Is that the idea?
Other way around.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's the purplish pink. That was what was proposed. The green is what is going to be put there. And if you look, there is a pump chamber that's showing in the house now with the new change. I brought that up to David and he called his brother Brian, and that will be moved about 10 feet to the front. So that'll go a little bit closer as well, because it can't obviously be inside the house.
Any other comments, questions?
Yeah, I just have one question. If we approve this in 2019, sounds like we're gonna need to do an extension on your order of conditions.
They're good till December.
Yeah, it's good to
December-
December. I think it's December 19th, 20 or December something 2019 as it was approved. And if David doesn't get his house in place before then, he'd have to renew his building permit as well.
Okay.
So I'm sure it'll get done fairly quickly.
Just needs a spot.
All right, does this need a motion? Does, okay. Is there a motion to approve the field change at 22 Hibiscus Lane as amended? Or as the plans have been amended?
So moved.
Second.
It was moved by George Bacon, seconded by Mark Phillips. Jen, how do you vote?
Aye.
George, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jess, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, passes unanimously. Thank you so much.
Thank
for
you.
coming Before us.
David, is Brian gonna need a letter from us, or is he good just with you telling him that we're fine?
He's good.
Okay.
He's good. I just Because he doesn't want to get in the soup with you guys.
No, we and him have a history, but he's never done anything wrong in the past, so.
Thank you.
And he's on looking. He's listening.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's his-
And thank you for joining us. And just if you could let the gentleman behind you know, he has a nice mustache.
Hey, you too, sir.
Thank you.
It's my
Right.
son.
That's your son. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to
Have a
meet
good
you.
evening, guys.
Take care.
You too.
Kind of get that.
All right, our next item this evening is a discussion on conservation and restriction priorities list. Contract with North County Land Trust. Now, Heather and Jess, you had a meeting with a representative from North County Land Trust. Was it Monday?
No, that was just with Robert.
That was, oh, it's just with Robert.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Alrighty.
And, one of the things was, we had two different versions of the contract.
Yep.
And it was like, what version are we going to be looking at? And this also to nudge Robert along to finalizing the contract and getting that done. So he's planning on being at our meeting on the 23rd, along with Anna Wilkins from North County Land Trust.
Yep.
So we should have a draft of the final contract at that point that we can say yes. And we can get that started.
Jess, what was the date of that meeting? The 23rd?
Yeah, our next meeting is June 23rd.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So what do you want to have for a discussion on that this evening?
Well, at our last meeting, we were looking at all the different work to be done, and all I did today was just put together a list of a list of what in two different forms of what work needs to be done. So we just wanted, before we went into that meeting with North County and Robert, we just wanted to have a sort of idea of what were the things we wanted to do first.
Yep.
That, we look a little bit organized. And I think George's idea was concentrate on the conservation restrictions that are current and need to be finalized. And I would say on the list of the CRs not in place, that would be the first four: the Panther Place, Shaker Mill, Pond, Solar 2B, and John Carroll Reserve. I thought that one was done, but maybe it hasn't been recorded.
I thought that was done too.
Yeah. Anyway, it's listed on the form as not done, but and the other thing was starting to put together the baseline documentation, and the ones that don't have CRs in place all need baseline documentation as well. So so this is just to have us all oriented, so when we go into the meeting next week, we can put together coherent sentences,
Supposedly.
supposedly.
Yes, just going through your list, and if I'm looking at the list you're talking about, it's on page 98 of the attachment from Heather, right?
Page 98. Wait,
Of the attachment from Heather for the meeting.
There's something on page 98 and then like a spreadsheet on 99.
oh, yeah, okay, yep. Looks like this, and
Yeah.
looks like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, at the bottom of the first page,
Yep,
so if I read that correctly, conservation restriction is in place. Baseline documentation is complete. Annual monitoring enforcement plan is implemented. So basically, Autumn Ridge is a tight package, all wrapped up in a bow, and we're good on that, right? Is that what we're saying?
yep, that's what we're saying.
Okay, so then the next one up, Kohler Place,
Yeah,
we just need to get the annual monitoring going, right?
Yeah, actually, that one could be a good one too, to get going on.
Okay. All right. And then Palm View, we have the CR in place, but that's it. So we need the baseline, we need the monitoring. Correct?
Right.
Okay, all right. So that's what was confusing me is I
Okay.
didn't see that additional wording. It just says CR's in place only. So that one, if I continue on Palm View Estates, my thoughts would be it
Okay, yeah. Yeah,
needs baseline, needs monitoring, right?
right.
Okay, all right.
Okay, sorry about that.
Nope, that's fine. Just wanted to clarify. So thank you.
So I'd say when we meet with Anna, we can sort of begin to point to the ones we think are more important and then hear from her what is feasible to, or what is reasonable to do in this first year of the contract.
Yep. What do you think,
Yeah.
Jen?
I think that makes sense. It's what kind of what we talked about last time, right?
Yep. Yep. Good with that, George?
Yeah,
Okay. Heather, have any thoughts?
No, I just think we gotta have, I'm just going through the list here and trying to figure out which I think would be the most important ones to go through and where they are all located, because Pond View Estates, I'm like, where is that? So that's what I was just doing, making notes on what streets these were off of. I do think it's important that we do get the new subdivisions that are going in first, those three. I think the John Kerry Reserve is done though, but
Yeah.
Shaker Mill Pond, Panther Place, and then obviously, I think Air Solar 2 would probably be the three big ones that we should make sure we get done.
I've been going through the Shaker Mill Pond CR more thoroughly today. So I had Heather include in the packet. I found the state has a model conservation restriction that was last updated in 2020. So one of the things that when we were looking at Shaker Mill a few meetings ago, Mark, you had questioned why there was an item on composting, and that's actually part of the state's boilerplate. But yeah, I'm just going to be updating some comments back on Shaker Mill Pond to give to Alan Shockett, the lawyer for Dan Aho. I do notice going through the state version, there are some things that they didn't include, which like the state version has a whole thing on baseline documentation. So I'm gonna, if everybody agrees, I'm gonna ask them to include a few things that we see in the state version that they didn't include here. So do you all want me to send that around before or send around when I send it to Dan Aho? It's a negotiation process, so nothing is final. And then I
Yeah,
think
good.
North County will have its own input eventually.
Yep. Yep, that'd be great if you could.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other comments on this discussion before we move on?
So let's say there is a limit with regards to what they can actually accomplish. Do we want to number these, at least maybe the first half dozen or so? Priority wise?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could have it in mind. I think like Shaker Mill Pond, to get that one moving forward, it can't get finalized. Or a good question for North County is, what is the state going to do without a reviewer? What happens to all these CRs that are in limbo? But Heather, you had a call from the lawyer the other day asking.
Yeah, because of how their subdivision approval was written, they're not supposed to get a occupancy permit until the CR is in place. They have a closing on one of the houses next Friday or sometime next week. So they were just concerned about that, making sure the Conservation Commission was all set. Obviously, there's no reviewer in place, right? So he just wanted to make sure that we're all set before they went forward. And I suggested that they get a hold of Mark from the planning board, town planner, because it's got to be waiver from them to do that. So they're comfortable in that aspect that we're reviewing it, and I let Jess know what was going on with that. So I think that's probably one of the first ones we should, one of the closer ones we should do, since the draft on that one's just about done.
Mhm.
We've gone through it a couple times. It just needs to get reviewed by council, whoever, and get that in place. So that would be one of the, I think the first one, because the most work's been done on that one. Panther Place is already looking at starting to pull building permits on them. And I think they're gonna try to go probably fairly fast. So that'd be another one that we should get going on. I think the first three would be the Shaker Pond, the Panther Place, and the Air Solar too, because those would be the first three they're gonna get done. And start being occupied within the next probably 6 months to a year at 100%. So.
Yeah, and I guess my thoughts were, can we move Kohler Place from where it is and get it down into the same venue as Autumn Ridge? So that seems like a fairly light lift. So
Yeah,
maybe do that. And then like you said, focus on those top three, and then maybe circle back, because Pondview having to do the baseline, that sounds like that could be a little costly, would be my thoughts. I don't know if everybody else agrees.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, that one. The ones that'll be costly will be obviously the Sandy Pond 2, Mountain Laurel. That one's a big mess, but then Pondview Estate needs baseline. And then eventually, when we get further down the top list, those will need baselines as well. But I think starting with the ones that we have more recent information on would be good, and that need more.
Yeah, as long as we could, as Heather said, we're so close and we're ready with Panther Place and Shaker Mill. They're right there. I don't want Air Solar 2 to get out of control. I want to take care of that while they're still around, because I think it's already a little out of control. And hopefully, Heather, you already got that on your schedule to go and talk with those folks.
Oh yeah, that's first week was just figuring out what's going on. Next week is calling places to start trying to go out and visit these places.
Yeah, and that would be a good one to go with the environmental monitor.
Yeah,
She's
I've circled through and found all of the emails with the monitoring report, so I have a contact that I can email to go out. Hopefully next week to do that.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. What, can someone tell me what the big problems are? Mountain Laurel, Sandy Pond 2?
Mountain Laurel, this was way back in like 2007, 2008, back when we had, I think Becky had 10 hours, there was no time to pay attention. And when the final building was done, some of the houses, the locations were changed, and they are actually in where the conservation restriction is supposed to be.
Oh, nice.
So that has to be really unpacked at some point to how do we, and actually, I don't think there's anybody to contact anymore. George, what's your memory?
Yeah, well, we were out there once and the contractor showed up. And I don't know if he's around anymore. Is there a homeowners association there?
Nope.
Then maybe we should notify the properties involved that there's an issue. So if they want to sell their homes, they have to tell the new owners.
Awesome.
So that would, I would say on that one, that would be a good one to ask North County's advice on, that we don't want to not necessarily move forward fast on that one. We have other priorities, but any advice on things we should do for just what you're suggesting, George, see what they suggest. They might know. Maybe they've encountered this before.
We had looked at resurveying that area, and it was supposed to be like $15,000.
Yeah.
So houses got moved to where they were not supposed to be. So that mean that where they were going to be built initially, that land is open?
That's the front yard
Yeah,
instead of the backyard.
Okay, all right.
So in general, they were moved further back.
Yeah,
Okay. So we could take over their front yard as a open space?
call it the Mark Phillips Conservation Land.
You would just have to remove the irrigation
Uh-oh, uh-oh.
unless you wanna, you could water the weeds.
Okay,
But in
thank you.
terms of Panther, Shaker Mill Pond and Solar 2, who's responsible for the baseline documentation? Isn't it the developer?
That's what I thought. That's why I wanted to get those done now, George, while they're still around.
Right, but shouldn't be much work for North County right now, so they can focus on other things until that stuff is submitted.
Mhm.
I know for, yeah, so it'll be a good conversation at our next meeting.
Okay. Very good. Anything else on this subject before we move on? Nope. Okey dokey. And our next item this evening is a discussion pre-management survey, water and wetlands 2022 pond management.
Not really much for us to do. It's just an FYI.
Yeah,
So
it was good reading.
they're doing their first real treatment on, I think it's June 15th. So they did the pre-treatment survey and then the spot treatments based on last year's post-treatment survey. But then on the 15th, they're doing one of the first, real bigger treatments, so.
All right, anybody have any comments on that?
How far in advance are they supposed to post the stay out of the ponds thing?
I emailed Jeff Thomas to let him know that they were going to do the treatment on the 15th. I'll ask him tomorrow when they're gonna post that. He had no problem with that date because it's still school's still in session, so the ponds aren't open during the week, so he was fine with that. He did ask if they're doing it again once the ponds are fully open, if we give as much notice as possible so they can arrange their schedules better. So I will ask him tomorrow when they're gonna post that, and I'll make sure there's some sort of notice at town hall as well. And if he wants, I don't know how it was done in the past, if we sent him a notice for them to post, or if the Parks Department posted something. So I'll clarify that with Jeff tomorrow.
Yeah. Actually, that also could be a good thing to put on the Ayer Facebook page or somewhere on Facebook, Ayer's Facebook social
I
media.
think that was something that was done in the past, and I'll make sure I touch base with Cindy tomorrow to do that, since she's gonna be on vacation. That we get that posted tomorrow as well, just so it's up there and going. And see if we can get something on the website as well.
And Jen, I
As many
think
places as we can.
and I think our contract says they have to post notices 5 days in advance.
Couldn't remember, and I knew that was an issue, not with water and wetlands, but previously that had been an issue, so.
And I know my area, there are a bunch of signs posted for this last one, so I have
Okay.
good confidence they'll do that.
It was well
Thank you.
posted, it seemed like. Anything else on pond treatment? Conservation Office and member updates. Do you have any Conservation Office updates, Heather?
I don't have too far. I'm just still figuring out where everything is and what's going on. There was supposed to be a wetland delineation training yesterday, but with the weather, they postponed it to Wednesday, so that'll be next Wednesday. I said I was gonna ask you guys about helping Lori Nearing with the weed pull, so that I did that, so that was good. I think it'd be great to have someone from the town hall and someone involved with the Conservation Commission do that with them. So
Especially
that's
if they
fine.
start trying to pull some rare orchid or something out of the water.
You know, at least then we now I can identify. I know what milfoil looks like. Now we'll identify water chestnuts too. So that's 2 off the list. And then other than that, it's been fairly quiet. I'm just getting everything organized in town. I was gonna ask what the commission's thought would be as we're on the, I mean, obviously we have a lot to do with the conservation restrictions. I gotta figure all that work out. But as we're still in this somewhat of a quiet period and with me being new to the commission and getting my feet wet and doing this again, if the commission would be so kind is to, with all the trainings that between MACC and the, whatever the name of the company is that go to next week, as those trainings open up, is it something that I need to ask permission for the Conservation Commission to do? Would it be okay if I found them, if I could do at least one training a month? That might take me out of the office for part of the day or the whole day, if the commission would be all right with that, just so I can get my bearings again in conservation and start networking again, because a lot of people that I worked with in conservation are no longer there. We've gone through, I guess, like 4 circuit riders since I left. So just want to know what the Conservation Commission's thought was on that.
Are these trainings like in person or are these?
Yeah, there's some of them are, most of them are in person. I found a couple in, I think there's one in July. They're on plant identifications in and around lakes and ponds. I found one, I think that MACC is doing it sometime in July. I know they do their lunch and learns and some remote ones, and there is a training when Monday night through the Citizens Planning Coalition that I'm attending about zoning and around wetlands and buffers and stuff. So that one's at home. We'll be doing that at home. It's a Zoom one, but I just wanted to see what the commission's thought was, how often you guys would be amenable to be going out on training, if it's something that you only want to see done once in a while, or if while we're kind of quiet, if it's something that you would mind if I went and did one a month, if I could find them. I mean, obviously ones that, I mean, if it costs money, I'd have to get your permission, but if I could find, because I think that one in MACC, I think was $60.
Well, as long as we're in a quiet period, you keep up with your work. I don't know. Does anyone have a issue with Heather getting some training?
I guess I would ask Jess, is there any sort of backlog of stuff while you've been filling in that needs to be handled to get us back to, sanity, let's say? I don't know how that's gone. It seems like it's been okay, but we need your input, I suppose.
No, we're in pretty good shape. The biggest backlog item is are the CRs, and that's going to get handled coming up. I'm still working on the special conditions boilerplate. That's my last to-do thing from my interim phase.
And are you handing that over to Heather, or are you going to continue and complete?
I mean, I'll continue with getting the draft, and then the input and all that will be down to all of us, including Heather. But now my focus is now narrowed since I'm not handling permits and applications and stuff. But our filing's up to date. Yeah, I think we're in good shape, so I have no problem with Heather doing some training. And the other organization was the Mass Society of Municipal Conservation Professionals, which is quite the mouthful.
Yeah, that's why I couldn't remember it. It was quite long.
Yeah.
And Jess, you said our filing is up to date. Does that include utilization of our database that we spent money on? And are we putting stuff in there, or is that still sitting idle?
That is a good question. We have 2 databases. Brian did one, and then Joanne did one. And I think when Joanne had it done, I don't think there's been any inputting of it on since, and I have no idea where it is myself.
That's a little.
I think Heather, I would love it if you didn't.
Considering the money we spent on having that put together.
I know, so that's something we'll have to look at down the road. But Heather, just don't come to us asking to do a new database.
No, I would never do that. I never had a database. I don't think databases work in conservation since the state issues a number for all of them. I can't really, a database can't generate it. The state gives it to us. And I know the town itself is looking at permitting software anyway. So yeah, I haven't found any database looking through everything. I've been looking through on the computer. I haven't found anything yet. So I'm just going through and filing items on the computer in ways that I'm
Uh-oh.
used to. So it's easy for me to find.
That looks like IT guru is here.
Yeah.
I was involved with Joanne and the programmer who created that database for the.
Do you know where it
Conservation
is?
Commission, and I do know where it is, so I can help you with that.
Yeah, Cindy, I really would like to, again, not have wasted the town's money, and I think we need to start utilizing that. So.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think what we can do is maybe take a look at it, have Heather look at it, and then take a look at what, the townwide permitting is, and maybe, meet in the middle. But it was pretty effective. I remember, I think it was 5 years ago.
So Heather, I'm sorry. So circling back to training,
Yes.
if it's free training, great. I'm not sure if
Yeah.
lunch and learns are free. So that's awesome.
Yeah, those are all free, and those are like log in at 11:30, so you get a spot because they're limited. And as I was asking, I'm like, oh wait, some of these cost money, and obviously they have to go to approval. But
Yeah, I mean, if
so
you
I just wanted to,
give
just
an
before I
estimate,
start
what
digging
kinda-
up and looking for these.
Yeah, if you could say, hey, if it's one a month, it would probably work out to $60. So, over the course of the fiscal year, we're looking at this. We can just kind of weigh it out with regards to the budget we have. Obviously, we have money for training, and that'd be great. But just so we have an idea of what we'd be spending, just so we're
Yeah,
not.
I will do that. I'll get an average cost of what they are. I said, I know the one in July that's on plant and shrub identification. I believe that one was 60 for members. So I will look into that and get an average price, and I'll bring that to the next meeting and let you guys know, so we can get in base on that, just because that was the one area that I don't have the expertise on, is wetlands lineation and plant identification. So the more training I can get on that, the easier, because besides a fern and a skunk cabbage, and blueberry, I'm pretty much lost when it comes to wetland plants. And then in the water, I can identify
Cattails.
cattails. That's about
No cattails.
no, and purple loosestrife, but that's then that's it.
Phragmites, right?
Yeah.
So the more I can learn, the better will be. And it would just be nice to know I have that option to be like, oh, okay, I have no problem. I just got to ask for permission to get the bill paid, but I can take the time off from work to go do these things out of the office. So I just wanted to ask that.
Yeah, no, it sounds great. Any member updates? Yes.
Just we had an annual communication from a Littleton resident who's been in the past concerned about the beaver damming on top of the outlet from Shaker Mill Pond, which is on private property. And we've discussed potentially, that might be a good location for a beaver deceiver, but again, it's private property. Dan Aho doesn't have any interest in doing something or paying for something there. He also doesn't have any opposition to somebody else doing it. He just doesn't want to. So we had a request for a status update from the Littleton resident, and I wrote him back. I sort of had fun with my language, but that we put in the deceiver at the inlet last year, which has helped things, but the outlet, I emphasized, it's on private property. And that when Heather and I met with Robert last week, he talked about getting together with the DPW with Dan in the fall when things quiet down in town hall a little bit, to start to pay some attention again to developing that beaver management plan. So I did say that, when some more urgent town matters are behind us, we're going to be meeting with the town manager and the DPW, but that, we would need to evaluate what was in the town's interest to justify the expenditure of air taxpayer funds. So just wanted to underscore to him that this, if we're not, we wouldn't be doing this for the benefit of Littleton. We'd have to have a clear town interest on, say, the impact on our roadways before we move forward on that. So,
Because that dam, Jess, that dam is in Littleton.
it's in no, actually, the outlet on
The
Shaker
outlet.
Mill Pond is in Ayer,
Oh, okay.
but
Wasn't it one of those ends? No, I guess I got
Sure.
something else in mind. Never mind.
yeah. But this is a resident who claims there are concerns about the impact on the flow of Bennett's Brook affecting Spectacle Pond down the road or down the stream. I don't know if that's the case, but in any case, I just wanted to make it clear that, this would have to be looked at from an air town interest, not from,
Not from his.
So essentially, if it starts to flood 2A, we'll do something.
or the other concern is if it was impacting Shaker Road at that
Right.
entrance to Shaker Mill Pond, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Or, if we did hear from some official entities like Littleton or Mass DEP or somebody else that, yeah, there are some problems with water flow, that would be a whole different matter, but private
If it
resident,
impacted our new Spectacle Pond water plant.
yeah,
Sure.
exactly. So,
Okay.
yeah. I'll send you all copies of the exchange.
Okay.
That's it.
Any other updates from commissioners?
We had a,
Sorry,
it was a option in the packet, whether to keep getting it as one big file or using the,
Yeah, I didn't know how you guys wanted to do that. I always did it as one giant file for the planning board, make one PDF. I know Joanne always did it in the Dropbox as different files. So I just didn't know how you all wanted to keep doing it. I can do it either way. One file is easier for me, but whichever's easiest for everybody else is fine.
I also have heard from the IT guru and others in town hall, it seems to be easier sharing it on the website through the large PDF file rather than a Dropbox. Would that be true? But
Yes.
yes,
That
yes,
is
that would be IT guru speaks. But we would have the option for using the Dropbox for really big notices of intent where it's a huge file that can't get sent by email.
You can absolutely do both.
What was that?
I'm sorry, you can absolutely do both for,
Okay.
yeah, in either case.
so we could create one PDF. It could just be posted to the town website, and then we could just access it from there, just like anybody else in town.
Yes. That's what most boards and commissions do with their packets.
Okay. And that would be regardless of the size.
Yeah, if it's bigger than maybe 15 meg, I usually cut it down before I post it, and size it down to a more reasonable download size.
Okay, but if you do that, are we then not getting everything?
Oh, no, you get everything. What it does is it just resizes the images that are contained within the document and in different, Adobe does some pretty good things as far as making file sizes smaller without losing any quality.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I suppose
It
if
would
it's,
still be the whole file.
yeah,
You
if
just
it's
want to
just
make
one
sure that,
PDF,
just want to make sure that anything that's out on the website is properly redacted.
Yeah.
For any personal information, if, for example, a copy of a check is personal information and shouldn't be.
No, that doesn't get sent.
yeah, I'm a PDF fan versus Dropbox, so it works for me.
Yeah.
Oh, it was
Yeah,
easy for me.
I was going to go in and help Heather go through the first Dropbox sending and then she started raising the PDF issue and then Cindy walked in and it's like, PDF, good. Dropbox, bad.
Anything else?
Just wanted to mention, I completely forgot about this and I apologize. Stratton Hill had submitted their preliminary subdivision. They dropped that off today. So I have that in my office. So I don't know who wants to come and talk to me about what we need to do with that and the new conservation analysis, but that did get dropped off today.
Okay.
And it's the exact same, I think it's almost the exact same thing as the last time, but yeah, so I forgot about it for a second, remembered. So yeah, if someone wants to come in and or talk call or whatever and discuss that, I don't know what our next steps are on that. I know we do need to do something with the analysis, but get peer reviewed, I believe, so.
So I would put on our next agenda an item for, we'll just check through the RFP that we issued in December, and then we had to pull back on. Just check, double check that that's still okay, and then we'll have to make a phone call to Bob Collins to say this is what we're going to do, because he doesn't respond to emails.
No, he does not.
So then at our next meeting, we could vote to reissue the RFP.
Okay. All right, very good. Thank you.
Okay.
Just an update on signs. So I told Lydell to go ahead. Kristen from Lydell said she'd be in touch, letting me know what an ETA is. I just poked her again today and said, can you give us an idea? Will it be June, July, August? When might we see this stuff? Because I mentioned to her that, we have a deadline based on our extension. Believe it or not, it's coming up pretty quick. 3 months and 3 weeks. We need to have all the signs installed and complete. So I'm hoping she gets back to me with something that's hopefully reasonable. And then we can solicit and figure out volunteering as to kind of getting them installed.
Okay. That's great. Thank you. Anything else? All right. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Jen, how do you vote?
Aye.
George, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jess, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mark, how do you vote?
aye.
Chair votes aye, passes unanimously.
Thanks,
Thank
folks.
you all very much.